Tyrone, business sure has been slow lately. I'll tell you.
A little bit.
Yeah. How's Sarita? How's the wife?
She's doing well.
Good.
Yep. Getting a new deck put on, so she's excited about that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, I'm trying to do a couple of little projects around the house myself, and looking ready for the world to start again.
Yep, absolutely.
Hey, look who's here!
Hey, K Pasa, what's going on?
Hey, Mitchell.
Good to meet you.
Absolutely.
All
Sir,
right.
how are you?
Hey,
Good to see you.
Hanging in, man. Hanging in.
Have a seat.
All right. So this is the barbershop, huh?
Yes,
This is it?
The famous
Yeah.
barbershop.
And you were one of the first customers we've had since the pandemic has shut the world down.
Now, you'll take a check, right?
Yes, we
Of
absolutely will
course.
take
I
it.
got it. It'll be in the mail tomorrow.
We will have it clear the bank before you walk out the door, but yes, we will. We have
That's
the
great.
equipment to do that.
That's great. We've been Facebook friends for a while.
For a while, yeah. Facebook friends and then Scrapple Trail, and yeah.
We got to get you on the Scrapple Trail, by the
Absolutely.
way.
I can't wait. Yeah.
Patrick was on the Scrapple Trail when we.
I was doing it, and
started.
then I had the grandkids that Saturday when you were over in Denton.
But you came to 20s, but we've been to 20s before.
Been to 20s, absolutely.
Okay.
Gotta
Okay.
do
I want
20s.
to do it. Yeah.
Scrapple
Yeah.
gravy. That's all I gotta say.
I can't wait.
Scrapple gravy.
I can't wait
at
to taste
20s.
it.
Yeah.
I got some Rapa in my freezer right now. as a
Oh,
matter of
that's
fact.
all.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, what's new?
A lot. Well, you and I go back and forth about science all the time. We got society seems to be opening back up, a little bit. Fits and starts, so that looks good. I read today that copper and oil prices are going up, so there's some demand there, which is a good sign for people getting back to work and whatnot.
And the market seems to be in a range of 25 to 27.
Yeah, it's pretty. It bounces around between that. It doesn't seem to want to get into that 20 late 27 range, but time will tell. I'm sure it will happen.
So hopefully we'll be in good shape. I've been doing some things on the shore where there's a couple businesses around there. I'll make sure that I posted. There's a Cold Classic Brewery and Blackwater Distillery and a few of the other restaurants around there that I go to, and I make sure I take a picture of what I'm getting, where I'm at, and say, this is easy, folks. You got to come out and support these local businesses.
It's a good idea.
I remember taking a buddy down to Blackwater. That's the one right outside Cambridge.
No, this is on Blackwater.
Oh,
Distillery.
okay. I'm sorry. Yeah, but there's a lot of good things on the Eastern Shore.
Yes, there
Are there
is.
not, my friend?
They're,
I spent a little of my time over there when I was a youngster.
It's always a good day on the Eastern Shore.
Yes.
Have either of you had any steam crabs yet? This
Oh, yeah.
year? Okay.
We catch our own off the dock.
Oh, wow. So you're one of those guys that has the pots out there, and I gotta do all this. And
Well, it's more expensive this year because bait's $1 more, so instead of
Okay.
$8, it basically
So
costs us about $9 a
oh
dozen.
wow.
Yeah, so
I feel
now-
very
yeah.
bad for you.
So that's just
Yeah, we're paying like for decent sized crabs, probably about $60 a dozen. In the western Baltimore County, eastern Carroll County area.
I'm hearing prices are generally north for a bushel at 300.
Oh yeah, I went over a friend's house. He was up from North Carolina. He bought a bushel, and he was in that range for sure. Yeah,
We're in the wrong business.
yeah.
We are,
Right.
but it's. I actually did some crabbing for a summer, and it's hard work.
It is.
And
I can imagine. Yeah.
And the watermen, God bless them, they're not the ones that reap most of the profit.
Right.
They're hard workers.
Let me tell you a lesson I learned back then, gentlemen, was you go out and work a day on the bay, you better bring sunglasses, because I will never
sure.
forget a day. I did. I came home, I was blinded. I mean, I literally, and I imagine had I done that repeatedly, I would have messed my eyes up.
And
So,
you got to squint constantly
Yeah,
if you're out there on a sunny day if you don't have
yeah,
sunglasses.
it's, I like the way what's in the old days when the hard scrabble guys got out there and did their thing, but sun lotion, eyeglass, eye protection. That's one of the things of evolving as a human, as a species. You learn certain things that, there are ways of protecting yourself, and that's a good thing.
There's a lot of the icons, reminds me of a lot of the icons of Eastern Shore of Waterman. You had Larry Sims, he was president of the Watermen's Association for years and years out of Rock Hall, and Buddy Harrison down in Tillman. Harrison's Chesapeake House, just iconic guys from the shore that they've gone on to the great beyond. But the Waterman community there is just as strong as it ever was. My brother lives down near Rock Hall now, and I get down there often.
Okay.
And it is a great town, great area. There's something going on there every weekend.
Okay.
And the Waterman community is still as strong as it ever was.
Good.
It's just a shame that business isn't what it used to be.
No, it isn't.
Okay. Well, what else are you seeing down there in terms of that economy? Is it suffering a little bit because the Waterman industry is not what it used to be?
Well, it's been that way for a long time. I mean, the Waterman struggle, there's no doubt about it. There's issues with the oyster industry. Read all about that is still trying to reseed it, and ways of doing that is always disputed. Rockfish fortunately came back over the past decade or so, but there's always something going on. The big thing I'm sure you're aware of is the snakehead fish that's become invasive into the bay. I've seen, I've never personally seen one, but I've seen people that catch them.
Okay.
And apparently they're good eating.
Really? I've never had one. Okay. But they're invasive. It's
an ugly fish.
Yeah.
That's just something about looking at a snakehead fish makes you go, folks, I've lost my appetite.
Gotcha. Okay.
Maybe if I ate it and nobody told me what it was, I think it was great. It's kind of like Scrapple.
Okay, yeah.
If you know what it is, you won't like it. But if you
right.
If you're told what it's made of, you may not appreciate it.
Well, that's another thing about Maryland is we've got so much diversity in terms of our economy. We've got the Watermen over on Eastern Shore, and then you travel west. We've got a lot of agriculture. We've got some industry out there as well. I think we even in certain areas getting a little tech boom going on where we're attracting these guys that are heading up all of this technological innovation. So from the standpoint of our positioning as a state with our economy, we're very, very well positioned. We just got to be always, in my opinion, looking at how to exploit those opportunities.
If you're going to get sick, there's no more privileged place to be sick than here in Maryland. We have Johns Hopkins University Maryland Medical System, Bayview Systems, and all that. Even on the Eastern Shore, there's the Christiana Health Network. Best doctors in the world are right here. And if you're going to retire, people complain about the taxes. They'll complain about different things. But you know what, Tyrone, if you're older and you have some health issues, there's no better place to be than where we are.
Right.
Amen. No, you're absolutely right.
You're never far from adequate, sufficient, superior medical.
Sure. And it was even a story in the newspaper years ago, maybe every 3 to 4 months, about how some well-heeled person, be it a sultan or some member of pop culture over in Europe, they were coming here to Maryland, to Johns Hopkins, to seek medical treatment of all types. I believe even Richard Branson came here recently when he had some heart trouble. So he sought his help here in Maryland.
We could always brag about Dr. Ben Carson.
Absolutely.
Just a legend. He's continuing public service, but the groundbreaking scientific work he did, especially with children and brain injuries, is just
unbelievable.
Legendary.
Exactly. I have a friend who is a rocket scientist. He does that for NASA, and he always says, the colloquialism, it's not rocket science or it's not brain surgery. He always says the rocket science piece is easy compared to brain surgery.
Right.
It's like that brain surgery piece is just, an order of magnitude far and away from what most people will ever be able to understand. Right. Yeah, so Carson is was at the top of that game.
One of the things that, and you guys are the scientific thinkers, and one of the things that fascinates me with what I'm seeing recently is just the momentous progress we're making with regard to the vaccine. And again, but that so confirms my sort of innate sense that the American ingenuity, American get up and go is second to none, but that's not even the point. It's amazing. We as a country can accomplish anything we want. Now, we'll see. The vaccine, I mean, I think the media so kind of distorts things as far as it tries to present things as black and white and simple, and a vaccine solves the problem. Well, I'm not so sure it's that simple, but it is something that obviously will help us move forward through this. And I guess it's just, I saw it on the news in the last couple of nights, just amazed at how quickly, this country and the companies and the people of this country, when they put their mind to it, move forward. And
No doubt.
in this instance, kind of like 1942 to 45, we're doing it in concert with our forefather England.
Right,
and
right.
So that's this example. But there are other countries we work with throughout history, and I'm very very pleased by the progress.
No, I think the one thing that I think the media should be a little bit more clear on is we don't even know yet if this will have to be like a flu shot. So maybe it's something that requires an update, annually. I think the way, at least in the reports that I've read, the way the media presents it is like a panacea, one and done type of thing. But I've never gotten an impression from the actual scientists that are out there working on this. They're not quite sure yet. So I think that if the media is going to take any lessons, I think it would be just to, clarify that piece of it. But to your point, I mean, this is the place where innovation occurs right here in America. And I always point back to that speech by JFK at Rice University when it wasn't even a century between the Wright brothers traveling like 120 feet and Kennedy saying, look, we're going to go 500,000 miles round trip to the moon. And part of that speech that people kind of don't get is the part where he said, and bring the man back safely. Right. That's the significant piece.
Exactly.
Okay. And we put our brains together as Americans and we created new materials and
I'm going to quote as an aside real quick. I'm going to quote another piece of wisdom from John F. Kennedy, and that is this, and this is what I wish this country would much grab onto and really contemplate, and that is this. We choose to go to the moon not because it is easy, but because it is hard.
Right, absolutely. Right.
And I think back, all of this happened within my lifetime.
Wow.
It just blows your mind that you think what jet travel really is a commercial enterprise happened in the late 50s. I was born in 62, and then Rice University President Kennedy makes that speech. Before this decade is out, I know people were giving themselves a little leeway saying, well, 1970s really the end of the decade.
Right.
Sort of gave themselves a little bit of leeway. But you look at the old films of the astronauts spinning in those chairs and doing all the testing, and like G.I. Joe had a space capsule with a little orange record with the Project Mercury, John Glenn, and within 7 years. Apollo 11. And I remember as a kid, I was like 6, 7 years old, sitting there. My parents let me stay up late to watch it.
It's a Sunday night.
The grainy picture, and you couldn't kind of make out at first what was going on. And then they turned, I guess, the picture back from negative to positive. And you saw Mr. Armstrong coming down the ladder. Walter Cronkite, it's just something that you never get out of your head.
I'm sure.
I remember him saying, and I've obviously watching this saying, there he is, Neil Armstrong, the 39-year-old American, standing on the surface of the moon. And to watch that today, it's just goosebumps.
Yeah.
I didn't see it actually happen, but as growing up, watch that. And when I grew up, I remember in school they wheeled a television set in
Right.
when the first space shuttle
Right.
occurred.
Right.
It was just two guys at that time. They were testing
Young and Crippen.
Young and Crippen, and they were testing the Columbia, and they went up, and we were all there and blown away. These guys were in space. So that was our version of the moonland that we could actually experience. But and then I got this die-cast metal 747 with the space shuttle on the back.
Yeah.
And that thing was like my prized possession. Okay?
Right.
And to top it all off, because my grandfather, he was into space and that sort of thing as well. And one Sunday morning, the 747 came over Baltimore.
Right.
And it had the ship
The
on the
Enterprise.
back. Right.
Right.
And we looked up, and there it was. And it was just like, wow, I was blown away.
Yeah.
So, good stuff. But that's where it happens, right here. American innovation. You ever see the Russian space shuttle?
No.
It's called the Buran. Looks exactly like ours. Right.
Wonder why that is.
Right, exactly. But speaking of science, you and I go back and forth on all types of different, specifically the quantum physics piece of things, which is absolutely mind-blowing.
Stephen Hawking stuff.
Yeah.
And people think, oh, I want to read that esoteric stuff, but I think it has applications in real life.
I totally agree.
Tyrone and I were talking that if everything, according to Stephen Hawking on this, everything that ever happened, that ever will happen in the multiverse has already happened. We're just realizing it right now in these little snippets of time. And I got to thinking later on, when people talk about you can choose your own future, you can change your own future. It's the butterfly effect. It's the little decisions that help guide you to what future you're going to go to.
Absolutely.
And I don't know about you, but the greatest things that have ever happened to me, despite all of my planning and all of my Sunday learning, happened because of chance from something else that happened in the past.
Right. No, I agree with that. I agree. And it even gets so strange as to, a choice that we make right now. Let's say we decide after this show to go get seafood instead of pizza, okay? Quantum physically, the choice to go get pizza was made. We just spawned another reality where that takes place. So, like I said, and you use a good term for it, esoteric, but a lot of the physicists today, like Brian Greene and others, they fully admit we're seeing a melding of philosophy and physics, that these two things aren't as dissimilar as we once thought that they were. So here we are.
It just sort of reinforces, what I've experienced throughout my life, which is, and I frame it in terms of, take care of the little things and the big things will follow, will flow. And that's been my experience. Now, along the way, of course there are bumps. Of course there are times you say, well, why? What's the point? Well, the point is take care of the little things and the big things will come. And I guess it's as simple as things when, I saw a general give a speech one time, and he said, the first thing I do in the morning is I make my bed.
I've seen that.
And the reason I do that is because fundamentally, it gives me a sense of accomplishment. And it's true. As long as our minds aren't so, bollocksed up with concern and worry about things that we really can't control. And I would submit that human beings spend way too much time, myself included, thinking about things we can't control.
Sure.
But if we spent much more of our time making our bed, taking out the garbage, clean, little things, everybody can do that.
There's a picture, I'm sure you guys are familiar with, it's called Pale Blue Dot.
Yes.
And it's a picture that Carl Sagan, he wanted NASA to turn the Voyager spacecraft around and take a picture of Earth Earth, the craft was way out beyond the orbit
Saturn.
of Saturn at the
Right.
time, and they said, okay, fine. They turned it around and they got this picture of Earth, which is just it's like a pixel. You almost can't even make it out, and it's in this gigantic sunbeam. And I always think about, this is emblematic of things that are just out of my control. So, like you said, I'm going to worry about what it is that I can control, and beyond that, I'm not going to sweat it because we're this out there in the middle of the cosmos. And I don't know if you've ever had an opportunity to set up a telescope last year on my front lawn and was looking at Jupiter. And here's Jupiter, and it's out there in just the absolute void. Okay, and if that doesn't put things in perspective, I don't know what
Satellites around the Galilean satellites.
Yeah, Ganymede was not too far from it, but it was just out there and like, whoa, now you get a real feel for how vast this whole thing is,
We think about that pale blue dot, that's all we have.
Yeah.
We haven't terraformed Mars. We don't have a base on the moon.
Right.
That's it.
Right.
And we got to take care of it.
Absolutely.
The one that boggles my mind, I can kind of think, when I think in terms of neat stuff in the sky and stuff, this is what I can relate to. When they talk about light years, that boggles my mind. But when I'm looking at a star or something in the sky, and I realize if I sit down and do the math, that the light from that star that I'm seeing right now was emitted in 1863 during the Battle of Gettysburg or whatever. That boggles my mind. It's that far away, and light travels at what, 216,000 miles per second?
186.
186.
186. 216 is a boiling or something. Yeah, I got you. Number of boats.
He's doing the metric system.
Yeah.
Exactly. When I think of that, what I'm seeing was first shown. It took 150 years to get that.
Right.
That's the mind-boggling stuff.
Yeah, and that the sun is 93 million miles away. The light we're getting from it right now started out eight minutes ago.
Yeah.
Okay. The heat the radiant heat started out tens of thousands of years ago in most cases. So when you go out and you feel that heat, that's ancient.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, and that
takes that long to get to the surface.
Yeah.
To get out.
Absolutely
And
crazy.
I look at the moon. That was 2 seconds ago.
Right.
And that's.
Yeah. So it's just, and I think that if more folk would, those guys came back from the moon and they were changed.
Yeah.
Because they said there were no political boundaries when we look back at the Earth. And when we were standing on the moon and we were looking out, and this is it, this is home, this is all we have. And I laugh all the time when, they set up the dichotomy of conservatives are not environmentalists. That nothing could be further from the truth. Now, I'm on well water. Okay, we live in a rural area, and I use products that are environmentally friendly. We got bird feeders up, the whole 9 yards. I think that I could stand toe to toe with the biggest environmentalists out there because, I definitely care about the environment because again, it's all we got, pretty much.
When you think about our pale blue dot 50 years ago, remember the Cuyahoga River was on fire.
Right,
Okay.
right.
And it's sort of the birth of the environmental movement. And I think people looked at incidents like that. And I remember driving around with my parents, you look around, there were dumps everywhere. People had dumps and that's where you threw your trash. And that's gone now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we've done, as a country, a very good job at cleaning things up. Unfortunately, I think we've exported some of our problems to places that don't care about the environment. But
Like what we do, yeah.
all in all, I think we're making progress and doing a good job in this country.
I agree. There's a scene, we were talking about Mad Men. There's a scene in Mad Men, I don't know if you remember this, where he took his family on a picnic. And after the picnic, they folded up the blanket, got the basket, and just left. And there was they left all this trash. Okay, and that was I guess that was the attitude back then,
Yeah.
And it was, they weren't, the characters weren't messy people at all. I mean, the house was immaculate. They were immaculate. But the attitude was just.
Was that scene
Hey.
shown to show that point?
No, it was incorporated. It was like a subliminal thing. Okay. But to our modern day eyes, you were like, wait a minute, aren't you guys going to clean up your trash?
Other than if you're going to have a peaceful protest and 10,000 people are going to descend upon a city, an area, and then they're going to leave, and there's going to be about 3 tons of trash left behind.
Right.
Because that's not, when you have an environmental global crisis, it's going to end the world in 9 years, according to certain politicians, then you don't have time to worry about cleaning up the McDonald's bag that you left.
Right.
Or the Coke can. We've got more important things to concern ourselves with.
And again, those are the small things you can
Those are the
control.
small things.
And the messaging back then, I remember, because people did throw McDonald's bags out the window. And remember, and I'm sure you've seen the Keep America Beautiful.
Iron Eyes Cody.
Iron Eyes Cody.
Yep.
Yes.
And you know the McDonald's bag where it was gets dumped and
Yep.
lands at his feet, and you know
Shed a single tear.
Shed a single tear.
Yeah.
And just, excuse me, I'm sorry.
You know, that was a powerful message back then.
As an aside, because I watch different shows,
That's great.
Iron Eyes Cody, the ultimate Native American, was actually Italian.
Right.
That's how they do.
Yeah.
And I think that the lesson of that is it doesn't matter.
Right, the message got across.
The message got across, whether you're Italian, whether you're Native American, whether you're Cuban, Spanish, what
It's
I am.
related to, what's her name from Massachusetts, right? Elizabeth
Elizabeth Warren.
They were related somehow.
Were they?
Maybe.
Maybe, because she had that, according to her pawpaw, she had that somewhere in her family.
Right.
Family line. But the point is, I much prefer to focus on Tyrone Keys, the human being, Clayton Mitchell, the human being, and that's about all I see.
Right.
But we spend way too much time, in my opinion, worrying about things that we shouldn't.
I totally agree. Yeah. Well, I think Clayton might be in a barbershop more often.
I think Clayton absolutely is coming back.
I will be back here.
He's got, first of all,
who do I tip?
well, both
of us.
But right, you give it to me. Clayton Tyrone has a tremendous head of hair.
There you
He's
go.
coming back. I like it on a regular
Hey,
basis.
let's do
A
it.
little off the top, so I think
And
that
we
was.
could even do something along the Scrapple Trail.
Yeah, we could do it as a scrapple trail.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's some wonderful idea.
Haircuts and scrapple trails, craft beer.
Yeah.
Let's just keep it
Lots
to
of
separate,
crafts.
make sure his hair gets in the scrabble or vice versa.
That's
But,
awesome.
no,
That's awesome. Well, I enjoyed it, fellas. I really did.
Great.
Well, thank you very much. That was a wonderful, wonderful show.
Thank you.